Yo, you delicious people, I'm here today to review Disney's The Mighty Ducks Game Changers. So, I would assess or assume that this episode is the season finale because it has that kind of quality to it. It has that, like, special guest thing going on. It has a build up of kind of showcasing that it has that build up and showcasing that like this has like heartfelt moments and decisions to be made that are going to affect the episodes to follow within a next season. For the most point, I think in finally after I think 6 episodes, they actually finally nailed what Minnesota looks like. After 6 episodes, what a coinky dink! And more than likely, probably a lot of people would say, dude, this show was probably shot in either Canada. It was probably shot in either Canada, Chicago, or Illinois somewhere, Anaheim somewhere, or some location that, of course, probably was not actually Minnesota. Because why would they actually shoot on location? Even though you can slap the words Twin Cities on something, doesn't mean that it's like, unless that's an actual thing from Minnesota, then I guess I should eat some crow right now. But because how much do I know about Minnesota? I just have lived here for a bulk of my life. But if anything, for this episode, it actually felt that I'm like, oh, okay, this more looks like Minnesota compared to previous episodes, and that's coming from a place of just living here for a bulk of my life. So, with that said, we kind of get a whole like beginning of this episode where like they're teasing the fact that they're seemingly not going to do hockey yet again in this episode, and it seems like that for like seemingly 90% of this episode. But then eventually we do get hockey in this season. But yet again, it's also just kind of hilarious how we go into here, and if this is an entire season, there has been a very small fractional percentage of hockey in this entire show as a whole, which I kind of laugh at. I kind of scoff at. I just don't quite understand. Like, I guess they kind of casted these kids, but then they're like, well, hey, like, but we'll actually get you like between the seasons to be a better hockey player, and then like into season 2, then you're gonna be really good, surprisingly. But yeah, so going into here, I guess it's not a spoiler because some people were expecting it. Within this episode, we have a reunion of Mighty Ducks characters, of course, from the original movie franchise. Really, we have some familiar faces, but also there's a reason for that. There's a build up of this episode because there's a whole reason why these ducks are actually coming back. We have a very heartfelt moment between uh, both Bombay's character and his previous team, and like that is really interesting. Um, we also have it in this movie that, or in this movie, in this show, that basically anything actually having to do with the actual game changing cast like basically gets thrown under the rug for the most point. Like everything that they end up doing is just like the most garbagey thing in this episode for the most point. To where I was just like, oh my god, like can we skirt back to Bombay and the Mighty Ducks? Like I don't care what else is going on in this episode. It's just to bide time. in all brutal honesty. But I do like the fact that if this is the season finale, as if I have to keep on questioning it, because I will, we have a lot of decisions in this episode that will come in nicely for a brand new season, to where like there's going to be a lot of things that people made, that people did, that will affect the following season, and I can enjoy that part of what would quite possibly be another episode or a next season. I think that the way of which the tail ending of this episode could go could land us into, if we do a following season, us really not having to, we can still avoid doing the hockey thing, but we can kind of show another season in progress, where it seems that the team has really like is starting to click. People have learned a lot, and we also have a team that seems to be much more successful this year than this season's past. So, with that said, there could be a quite interesting build to the following season. And so that's what I could be, if I could use the word excited, because excited is kind of like an overkill like word, because within the following season, I'm still going to get this same kind of story and this same kind of approach that this season had. And that will not be I think, better story. I just think it will be the same old, soft serve kind of approach to this show. So, with that said, I would say that this episode is forcibly worth watching, because I cannot not say, oh no, like this one's another stinker, boo-hoo, nobody watched this episode. No, I'm never going to watch this show ever again. No, I feel like this episode out of the entire season was probably the only episode actually worthwhile watching. Just because you get a little bit of us really trying to show appreciation to a character that hasn't really been in this show that much. And so that's the thing that I could like about this show. So, with that said, I think it's about time to go into spoilers. So anything that the actual legitimate game changer cast does within this movie, like the people that hadn't done a Mighty Ducks thing prior to this, any of those people, the story is just, it's like, but I can be interested in what all these things led up to till the tail end of this episode. So, thumbs up to that, I guess. But other than that, everything else with those characters are just, it was a waste of time. Because it's just, if you're going to invest in this cast, this big cast, then, have a good story. Every little bit of this comes off as just man, this target audience must just be just kids, and I don't know how this could appeal to adults. But it also, I guess, has to appeal to just Mighty Ducks people in general, because slap a word on a TV screen or a device somewhere, and people will come, kind of thing. And plus Disney, hey, we don't have enough content on Disney Plus, so everyone's going to watch everything eventually. It's kind of, I guess, what they think of with Disney Plus, to be brutally honest. So, let's get into that double five. It's time to go into the show. I don't know whether or not, I'm sure they're probably going to make a season 2 of this. So, I don't know, don't know. Like, it seems that Games Changers is trending on YouTube. So I guess, yeah, I guess it's an interesting show for some people. I guess I have no qualms about it. So let's go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time again to spoil the show. So in this episode, we have Evan, who is to now have this tug of war match going on, because we end up finding out that Coach T goes and takes Evan into his office, and he's like, you know what, kid? Like, I have an opening on my team. Because, yeah, someone had gotten hurt on my team, so I need an opening. Hey, you can come back to the Ducks. Like, I ended up going to your last hockey game, and I saw that you were really, really good. Wait a minute, so Coach T... Wait a minute, so Coach T, who ended up saying in a earlier episode that anybody wearing a Don't Bothers jersey is a clown, and why are they wearing a clown outfit? But we have Coach T going out of his way to go into a Don't Bothers team match thing. That makes no sense. You would, like, Coach T should have said, like, well, hey, man, like, I have an open spot for you. And, like, if anything, the one thing that kind of tore me up about you leaving before was just you had so much potential. Like, you had so much more potential, more than anybody else. Like, you could be a person that could have built, and I could have built an entire team around. And once you walked away, once you left, like, I realized that. Yeah, I had to cut you because I had so many, I had so many people that had that quality, and, like, you got lost in the shuffle. But now I realize, with you gone, how much you really affected this team when you left. Like, that would have been the way to write that in, not, Coach T, who thought that the Don't Bothers were a waste of time, bizarrely is going to their hockey games because I guess he just desperately needs to see any hockey game anywhere because he just desperately loves hockey. Was he, like, he might have been, like, scouting, I guess, for another character to steal away from some other team? Like, what kind of douchebaggery thing does Coach T really play? I don't know. But, so we have it to where Evan now has to decide whether or not he is going to be a Don't Bother or a Duck. Because here's the thing. They try to avoid calling the Ducks the Mighty Ducks. I don't know what it is. Like, looking at the logo, it just says Ducks on it. When you have even the Mighty Ducks jerseys at the tail end of this show, which, spoilers, Mighty Ducks comes back. They have just, like, it seems like they kind of, like, refigured the jerseys to where it just says, like, Ducks on the bottom. Like, I don't know, was there licensing? Was there an issue with, like, dude, Disney has more money than God. Like, what, did they have to, rigor, like, was there somebody that was going to sue if they, like, Disney has more money than God. They could pay anybody anything to use the Mighty Ducks whatever for a million bajillion years. And and then also, could Disney also rekindle the Mighty Ducks animated series? Could they bring that back? Because why not? So, as a joke, I don't know. So, going into here, we have Evan, who has this decision to make, to where eventually we end up finding out that Evan just goes to the practices of the Mighty Ducks to just kind of feel things out, to just kind of test the waters. Doesn't tell his mother about it, just goes ahead and goes there and just does a whole entire practice with the Mighty Ducks. So we end up having Alex, who is at work, and we end up having her boss saying, well, hey, like, I need to make a million bajillion Mighty Ducks sweatpants because it seems, or like it was like 372 things of sweatpants, because it seems like they were unable to have the sweatpants shipped from like North Korea or something, or or China or wherever the heck that it was from. So we end up having Alex's boss going and forcing her to do some kind of side project that seems well beyond her job. And Alex is just like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I was thinking, like, dude, quit. Alex, quit your job. Like, I felt like this was going to be the moment where Alex was going to quit. And then she was just going to be a coach full time and see how that works out. And it won't because seems a little iffy. So we have Alex going and making these sweatpants. And then we end up having Alex's boss coming by Alex's home later on to bring her even more stuff that she has to do, because now she is a volunteer mom for the Mighty Ducks because Evan showed up for one practice, so that all of a sudden makes her a Mighty Ducks mom. And then, oh, hey, by the way, Alex, your son is actually on the Mighty Ducks. How do you feel about that? That he basically went behind your back and joined some other team. How do you feel about that, Alex? It feels like it was like a is like how like an interviewer is like, how do you feel? So Alex is like, ah. So we have it to where Alex just does all this stuff that her boss wants, and we have Evan who ends up coming home to have Alex just saying like, well, hey man, like, I guess you're Mighty Ducks now? Like, what's going on? And we have it to where Evan is trying to, like, think logically. It's like, well, hey, like, the Mighty Ducks can go to state, and Mighty Ducks can give me a scholarship, and the Mighty Ducks had a movie franchise, and Emilio Estevez, I think, was in it, whoever that actor is. That actor was like that was from a million years ago, because that's what they assessed to be the former movie franchise of this movie, to just be a thing that happened a million years ago. Because I keep wanting to consistently point that out every single day of my life when I review this, because it's not a million years ago to me. But anyways, I guess because I'm not the target audience, evidently. So we have it to where Evan is wanting his mother to decide which team he should stay on, and Alex is like, you know what, this is the one time where I want you to make this decision up on your own. Like, I am not going to tell you what to do, because, yeah, we had Evan who tells Bombay that normally his mother would make, Evan would make none of his own decisions because Alex would make it for him. Because we end up having Evan who goes even to Bombay, and he's like, well, hey, like, you were a duck before. Like what? Like, what should I do? Should I side with the Ducks? Should I side with the Don't Bothers? What should I do, Bombay? And so now we have to stop right then and now to go back a little bit. So we end up having Bombay ending up driving around, and we end up having Bombay having his window shattered. Iconically by a man who had shattered his window years before. Just so much, like, rekindling stuff, which was so great. I love that. So, because I had watched like the Mighty Ducks fairly recently, and immediately when that happened, and like they connected those dots again, I was like, oh my god, they're like really trying to like write this really well, like the parts that are important to the show. So we have Bombay who makes it out of his car to be like, hey, what is going on? And we end up finding out that Fulton, uh, who is of course a original Mighty Ducks character, and a lot of people or might have remembered him from a little show called Daredevil. It's an amazing show that was really really good up until I think season 3, to be brutally honest, because they were finishing up that show, so they just had to do what they did in the last season. But if anything, yeah, we had Fulton Reed, who is a construction worker, who is just like, well, hey man, like I'm sorry that Bombay, hey man, I haven't seen you in like a million years. Cause yeah, a million years when the Mighty Ducks was always and always has been relevant to a movie franchise. Whatever. It's a cult classic, just so you know. Just so you're aware, Game Changers. You and you're throwing the original Mighty Ducks movie franchise under the bus. Because it's like that story's a million times better. One movie is a million times better than this entire show, writing wise. So get to freaking work, Mighty Ducks people. Game Changers people. Good God. So we end up having Fulton saying that he's back in town because he ended up finding out that it seems that the Mighty Ducks are having some kind of reunion of sorts. And so we have it to where Fulton is mentioning to Bombay, it's like, well, hey, yeah, I'm sure you should be getting a invitation in the mail if you haven't already. And Bombay is like, well, yeah, like, you know what, my mail is just not what it used to be. Like, I'm sure I have like a million letters just all over the place, and I've changed a bunch of addresses over the years, and I don't know, like if they properly sent it. And so we end up having Bombay and Alex just kind of strolling through his entire office trying to find this letter that doesn't exist for reasons. And so Alex ends up going to her boss and saying, like, well, hey, yeah, just letting you know, the guy that invented this entire team, well, that's not true. Technically, District 5 was already there before Bombay was, but he created the name the Mighty Ducks. Like, he basically took Mr. Ducksworth's name and created the Mighty Ducks. So, like, the guy that created, technically in movie, the Mighty Ducks cannot go to a ceremony to get anything. Like, they don't even want him there. Because supposedly, this Bombay character isn't good enough to be at this reunion because I guess what happened at the tail end of his career. What kind of garbage is that? But it's whatever, I guess, like, since, like, they probably, like, I don't get it. I didn't get what the whole, like, I think they just, like, they had to come up with a reason to, like, it presents a good part of the story. Like, it presents a feel-good part of the story, and it also eats up quite a bit of episode time. But, like, to me, I was just like, dude, this guy, like, invented this thing. Like, he should be there every year. Like, if they have to fly him in, fly him in. But, because, yeah, he, like, invented the team, even though, technically, again, they were there but, like, he wouldn't have made this team what it is without him having the knowledge and the and whatever to get them to be this team that everyone knows, so on and so forth. And plus, in the first movie, like, we had Emilio Estevez's character Bombay selling the movie much more so than the actual hockey team was. Until eventually, when sequels happened, then they actually were like, "Oh, I guess we should go and actually write things for the actual team. Wouldn't that make sense?" Like, yeah, it actually does make sense. Great. So going in here, we have Bombay, who's like, "Well, I guess I'm not really a duck now, am I? Well, I guess it's a good thing that I like didn't really care about hockey, and like I just kind of just like didn't really stay connected with my entire team, because it seems that when we have Bombay going and having to get together with the rest of the Mighty Ducks team, we have Fulton Reed, we have Lester Averman, we have Guy Germain, we have Adam Banks, yeah. We have Ken Wu, we have Connie Moreau. Yeah, I want to say it's Moreau because I know there's a baseball player that I think it was like Justin Morneau or Moreau. Anyways, we have these characters all come back and they are to meet together at this like bar of sorts, and so we end up having the team like reflecting on old photos, and we have Lester who has to bring up that the voice that he usually goes into every single movie, where he like does that like announcer voice and stuff like that, and kind of we end up having like Lester and everybody like bring up a lot of like bits and pieces of where they are at now, which I thoroughly did enjoy. I ended up finding out that Lester is supposedly be a person to be in a limo. They had to cryptically say what exactly that meant. Fulton, of course, construction worker. Guy and Connie, I guess, are married together, and it seems that they ended up naming one of their kids after Bombay. Here's the thing, we end up finding out that Connie evidently is a political figure, which was like, yeah, like, cool. That was great. Uh, Ken, I don't know what exactly they ended up saying that he did, though. I guess probably did Olympics after this, or maybe something. I don't know. Um, I don't know what they exactly said he was doing because I don't think they got to it. I don't know. Like, honestly, I think like I didn't even recognize or realize who even Ken was. But then I was like, oh wait, like this is the guy who was doing all the like spins and like he was doing all those like those interesting tricks and stuff in the other movies, to where we had Bombay like turn to Ken and he was like, "Hey, what do you got for me?" And he was like, "Well, I think I can like do this and this and this and this and this move, and I think that'll just kind of get everybody, and like I'll be able to trick them and then just be able to hit the put the puck in." And Bombay's like, "Okay, sure," and he just sends him out like some bizarrish skating moves and maneuvers and whatever. I was like, okay, sure. So going into this, we end up having the Ducks all saying, well, like, hey Bombay, like where have you been? like we all thought that you might have been dead or something. It's like, where have you been? It's like supposedly Bombay didn't come to Guy and Connie's wedding, uh, and any number of things that I guess Bombay ended up missing. We end up having Fulton saying like, "Wow, man, like No wonder why Charlie didn't come. They referenced Charlie in this show. They referenced Charlie, and I was like, whoa, this is awesome. Like, Joshua Jackson, the actor that originally did Charlie in the movies, I was like, man, wouldn't it be nice if he came back? But I'm like, well, they're probably saving him for either, like, they're saving him for, I think, the right episode. To maybe have him, like, surprisingly come back to shock people. Like, I think having Charlie just come back now, like, would not have been shocking enough. So I think Disney, again, has more money than God. They can, like, if they want to have somebody come back, they can just recast him and make him look like somebody else. Or they can just how much money you want, Joshua Jackson, for like 5 minutes of work? Do you want $5 bajillion? Because we have that money. Even though we kind of got hit this whole year of not having our Disney World park things open, but still. So they're Disney. I think they'll be fine. I'm sure Falcon and Winter Soldier made them tons of money. But anyways, yeah, it's Disney. I'm sure they'll bounce back. So because we end up having them all asking, it's like, well, hey man, are you gonna make it to the reunion? Like, obviously you'll come there. And Bombay is like, yeah, you know what? I'm busy. Like, I got things to do. Like, I got toilets to clean. I got 14 showers to all shower myself in. That's what I'm doing. I'm gonna go and like I need to like wash my hair that night, or I need to have something removed, or whatever the heck else excuse that I have under the sun that I'm just gonna pull out and just plop right now. And so we end up having the Ducks just going like, wow, man, like this is the one time for us to be together, and you can't help but like again just disconnect yourself from us. Like, I thought we were family kind of thing. And we end up having Bombay just going like, well, I'm sorry, like I'm gonna be busy. I'm gonna be swamped. I got things going on. So we end up having it to where, because Evan is a temporary duck, we have Coach T who's like, well, hey, are you coming to the anniversary? You coming to the reunion because you're barely a duck? And so Evan's like, well, sure, I guess. But we have Evan who ends up going to school, and it seems like he is choosing a side between the Ducks and the Don't Bothers, because we end up having Evan going and talking to the Ducks, and then the Don't Bothers, when Evan comes over to them, they're just like, well, hey, why are you talking to the Ducks? Like, I thought they treated you like garbage. And so Evan's like, well, yeah, they just wanted to tease me one last time. And then the Ducks, so then the Don't Bothers are just like shouting at the Ducks, just going like, yeah, hey, you schlubs. And the Ducks are like, hey, you want a piece? And the Don't Bothers are like, no. So here was the thing that kind of bugged me. So we had Evan, who is going to what was supposed to be hockey practice, but instead we end up having like Nick and the entire team all sitting in some lounge somewhere watching their previous hockey game of them winning. They are just watching it on a loop over and over and over again. And so Evan is like, well, hey, are we practicing or what? And Nick is like, practicing for what? And Evan's like, practicing to win. And Nick is like, well, hey, if you want us to win, all we have to do is watch this 9 more times, and like we can definitely call that a win, right? Who are these people? Did they pay to play this hockey thing? I know for me, I played football, and like the last football season that I played, like I was just dragging my way through that, just because I wasn't talented or whichever. And plus, I ended up just being like a offensive line character, which was basically just like, well, yeah, like you're just gonna block and block some more and go ahead and do some more blocking. But and then I just realized that I was like, you know what, like my knees aren't great. Like I'm kind of just like, what am I even doing with football? Like I wasn't going to do anything of real true, like I wasn't going to make a scholarship out of being on a football team or whatever. So it was just like, well, like my knees were just not good, so it just kind of like, well, I guess just don't do sports after this. But yeah, so going into going into here, we had the Don't Bothers really like didn't have much of a story in this episode as a whole. I think there was one other little portion of like the Don't Bothers talking to one another. Like I think Logan or whoever like was complaining about that his hair looks bad bizarrely, and Nick was like, "Oh no, your hair is fine, like always, right, guys?" So on and so forth. They barely had anything to do with this episode besides towards the tail end here. So we have Evan who is going to uh, he's going to the reunion, and so we have Evan who is deciding now. He takes Coach T to make his decision because we have Alex who's in the background just kind of like waiting to, I guess, just hand people out things. And so we have Evan taking Coach T and deciding, well, you know what? I don't think that I'm going to be a duck. Like, I think I'm perfectly fine being with the Don't Bothers. Like, hey, man, I'll see you next season. Like, and we'll see what happens. And Coach T is like, well, like that's an awful decision, but okay, like whatever you want to do. So we have it to where Evan ends up bumping into the original Mighty Ducks, and he's like, well, hey guys, like I'm like a consistent person that has kind of just repetitiously researched you guys, and I know everything about you and everything along those lines. Luckily for me, because IMDb is a great resource. Evan didn't say that, but I think that he probably should have. So, because yeah, like in all actuality, like I'm sorry, it's not like all of them went and were pro hockey players after the third or fourth or whatever movie. Uh, but because evidently that's they like none of them said that they ended up being pro hockey players after this is over. So we end up having Evan who is like, well, hey, like how's everybody going? How's everything? And we end up having it to where the Mighty Ducks are like, well, yeah, like it just kind of sucks that like Bombay isn't here. And Evan's like, well, hey, man, like I was talking to Bombay trying to make the decision of whether or not to be on the Don't Bothers of the Mighty Ducks. And like he told me that they weren't going to let him come here. They didn't send him an invitation because they basically told him to don't bother. And so we end up having the Mighty Ducks that are just like, oh, that's wrong. And so we have the Mighty Ducks, limo in hand, driving their way to make it onto the ice of Bombay's Ice Palace. And because we have Bombay who is just shooting after shot after shot after shot after hockey pucks, I guess be better at hockey. I don't know how he could be any better than, but better at hockey. They needed to have him have a reason to be on the ice when the other Ducks stroll in. So we end up having the Ducks strolling in on the ice, and then like you see this funny like slide that they end up doing with the limo, which I thought was funny. So we end up having the Ducks all saying, "Well, like, hey Bombay, like, what are you doing here? Like, I'm sure you're really busy, but like, we need you to come somewhere." And so Bombay's like, "Well, what?" So Bombay ends up coming to the reunion regardless of whatever anybody else says. And so we have it to where at this reunion, they're giving a lifetime achievement award to the Mighty Ducks coach for all the great that he's ever done. And I'm like, wait a minute, like, how long of a life has this guy had to where immediately, like, he's getting a lifetime achievement award thing, whatever? Okay. I guess if you have like 5 winning seasons in a row, like I guess that's a lifetime achievement, I guess. I don't know. I don't know his accolades because like wasn't in further knowledge of Coach T. So we end up having the Ducks just saying, "Oh, whoa, whoa, wait a minute." Like before we get this whole ceremony under wraps, and this guy gets a lifetime achievement award, I think somebody else needs to actually get a lifetime achievement award as well. And that, of course, is Gordon Bombay. And so we end up having all the original Ducks coming on there and like mentioning about like where their life has come from the movies to now, where Adam talks about him being a lawyer, which of course Adam Banks was, of course, with the Hawks, and then he ended up being with the Ducks, and then he ended up, I guess, becoming a lawyer. And so, like, he kind of like is like, yeah, like I seem to like be very well familiar with a lot of you kinds of people. And then he snickers, like, yeah, like dude, like yeah, like you have it to where like all these people are like greedy as f, I'm sure, because they're just like I guess the high end of whatever. So we also have it to where like Connie like puts out this like heartfelt speech, and like I wonder how much some of this stuff might have been just like well yeah, we're gonna say that these are the lines now, but then when we actually do the scene, we're just gonna improvise stuff because F it. Like you can't like you cannot like give people lines like during this part where it's like a heartfelt like thank you to Bombay. But I guess they probably did script them. But anyways, so we end up having them all like kind of doing this whole like mentioning about how like Bombay deserves to also have a lifetime achievement, and Bombay is just kind of like watching on as all these people talk it out within the Ducks, and so we have it to where like they all are celebrating Bombay, and then eventually they leave off. So we end up having it to where the Don't Bothers are seemingly doing another practice. I don't know what for because it seems like these people don't really do this thing called hockey, but it is what it is. So we end up having Bombay coming in and he's like, well, hey, you know what? Like, I think it's about time that you guys start to really find somebody that you can learn from. And what better way to do that but to learn from my Mighty Ducks. So the Mighty Ducks come in. We have this kind of like practice between the Ducks and the Don't Bothers. Like I thought that this scene was amazing. We end up having it to where like it's not just a game, like it's just trying to let people know like how exactly to like what is the best move that they've learned over certain times and stuff along those lines. Like Fulton, of course, like being one of the one half of the God, what were they called? Uh, like I want to say it's like the Headbangers or something like that, but that's not the name. Uh, God, what was the name of the duo between him and that other guy? I don't remember. God, I yeah. No, wait, it's something Brothers. The Bash Brothers. Was it the Bash Brothers? I don't know. Yeah, it might have been the Bash Brothers. But anyways, so we end up having them kind of remembering Fulton for that at some parts of this episode. And Fulton's like, yeah, like, yeah, whatever. Like, whatever you guys want to like remind me of from the franchise. That yeah, that's fine. Uh, but all these guys were super nice. And yeah, they're like I'm sure they get reminded of this duck stuff like all the time, and it probably is like, well, hey, yeah, like we definitely wanted to come back, and we all pretty much still love this franchise and stuff like that, and because of how like much of a longevity that this thing has had, where people probably got into hockey just because of these people, which is great. So going on into here, we have the Ducks teaching the like they're having like a game or whatever between the Don't Bothers and the Ducks, but the Don't Bothers are also learning to where we end up having like a lot of the game changer casts quite possibly having these moments where they're just like, oh my god, like you're just like so amazing and I can't believe like I'm learning from you kind of moments. And we end up having eventually where like we just have this big shot where all the Don't Bothers and all the Mighty Ducks like all get together and they have this one like big shot together. And like everybody's like, yeah, I'm definitely adding this onto my Instagram. It's like, well, yeah, of course. Like you have like a billion people that are all just gonna like be like, yeah, like I definitely wanted to be tied with that, or yeah, I definitely wanted to have this in whichever one have you, and so on and so forth. So we end up having the girl that was reasonably tied to a bulk of these episodes because it seems like she has a story, and I'm not just biting for time because I'm Sophie. There we go. I was biding for time because I didn't remember what her name was. So we have Sophie who is going to put that photo onto her Instagram, and so we end up having her find out that there was a video leak of Evan being on the Mighty Ducks practice team, and we're like, ooh, that didn't feel like something that was forced or was something that wasn't like some kind of thing to throw a wrench into the Don't Bothers team, as if it was some kind of somebody on that team was trying to break up the Don't Bothers, and what better way to show footage of this to leak it out to just be like, ha 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 ha. Like, we might have had Coach T maybe implanting that to eventually try to break up the Don't Bothers, because maybe there's some kind of muhahaha thing that we don't realize about Coach T, that he's like, well, yeah, like maybe it had something to do with Alex in that video that went viral that made Coach T look like a joke, and so maybe Coach T orchestrated that video to get back at the Don't Bothers and to get back at Alex and whatever what have you, to throw a wrench into that team. So we have Sophie who catches this video and she ends up showing the team, and then the whole entire team turn on Evan to just be like, how could you? How could you? You turned your back to go on to the Mighty Ducks, the team that you supposedly hated. But man, when they have a spot open, man, do you just go flocking back? We had an entire episode trying to get Sophie from off the Ducks to come to this game, to come to the Don't Bothers, to come to this team, I mean. And so now we have it to where Evan was the driving force to get Sophie off of the Ducks to come here. And then Evan turns around and goes off and tries to join the Ducks again, when hearing that the Ducks could quite possibly go to state or whatever because they will be able to go to the playoffs. Here's the thing. If we had a relationship between Evan and Sophie, I would have expected this is where these two break up. Because the whole story that I just plopped out right there. Is it just like, you turned your back on me? I'm breaking up with you, Evan. The relationship that we do not have. But then again, in the following whichever, we could have it to where Evan, like, his sole reason for staying on the Don't Bothers was because Sophie was there. And boom, that relationship could start off. He was like, well, you know what? Out of all the good things that could have happened in my life with being in the Ducks, the only thing that mattered was Sophie. And then boom, relationship starts. But that ends up being what it ends up being. But we end up having Alex, who is talking to Bombay, and it seems that Alex kind of throws at Bombay. It's like, well, hey, it seems like you're very much interested in really coming back to hockey, even to the point to where you're bringing in the original Ducks to come back and to help my team. And we end up having Bombay saying, like, well, yeah, is there that assistant coach position still open? And Alex is like, mm-hmm. So I'm kind of wondering when eventually Alex and Bombay are going to probably at some point butt heads, to where eventually Alex is just going to be like, you know what? Like, why don't you just be the head coach? Like, I think that's what's going to happen. Like, I feel like there is going to, like, I can already write what's going to happen in the following whatevers. Because, like, this show is honestly very predictable. And, like, you could tell what they deem to be important. Like, if I knew right away that, oh, okay, well, the original Mighty Ducks are coming in, and Bombay is going to have, an important thing going to the tail end of this episode. Like, oh, okay, well, then it's obvious that, like, the original Ducks are going to play hockey with the Don't Bothers, and the rest of this movie is going to be reminiscing about the original Ducks coming back and talking about old times. And then what's going to be the big story is the build-up of having Bombay being reconnected with the Mighty Ducks somehow. And technically, that all happens within this episode. Because we end up having it to where, like, Bombay had, like, been disconnected to hockey entirely, to where we have to reconnect him permanently now to hockey, and that is the way to do this. So, with that said, I apologize for how long this took, but I'm going to get out of here. Bye, buddy. Bye, everybody.